But that is the role of a mentor. It's to bring out the best in what someone has. It's not to make the path for them. It's not to do the work for them. It's not to teach them or make a carbon copy out of them. You're just there to support and elevate and encourage and nurture and help them grow on their own path to their own destiny.
All right, hello everybody, welcome to Friday Conversations. It is our first ever dinner time Friday conversation, and we didn't do a great job getting the word out. So we've got kind of a smaller group today, which I'm excited to have that. Every once in a while we get these smaller conversations that gives the conversation a bit more time to breathe. We are gonna do what we always do. We're gonna go around the room and introduce ourselves and tell us a little bit about yourself. We kind of already know each other here in the room, but for the sake of people watching online and watching the reruns, make it count. I'm gonna sit up straight because I was kind of in that
I could do that too.
You know,
I'm taller than you.
you are taller than me. Taller than me? What is that your name?
Yeah. Hi, I'm taller than me. No, I'm Leonidas Byron, son of Jonathan and Melissa Byron. I build PCs. If you need a PC, you can ask me. Big or small, expensive, non-expensive, high-end, low-end, I got you. If you have any knowledge whatsoever, I would love to chat. On to you, Rob.
All right. Hey, everyone. Rob Reuter here with Edic Designs. So I work with data, and I help people organize and control and manage their resources from the beginning, the data, and then your process, and then your business. So if you are tired of struggling with pulling all that information together, let's have a conversation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zane Schwindeman. I'm excited to be here on Friday Conversations again with my work schedule. It's freed me up to be here in the evening time on third Fridays, and grateful to be a part of the initiative and what we're doing here with Friday Conversations. Also, I've been having fun with 3D printing and laser engraving, so if you want any fun knickknacks, let me know. We just made a musical frog that has a little hammer, and you can beat out a tune to it. So
That's nice.
I'm Melissa Byron, and I'm a metabolic coach. So I help you with resetting your metabolic system.
Awesome. My name is Chris Durkin. I have WannaWare, and I'm allegedly attempting to produce this show. We make software and AI designs and builds and all kinds of awesome things. So Chris at WannaWare.com.
Nice.
My name is Steve Hicks, and I am taller than Jonathan Byron. What I do when I'm not bragging about my height is I am a personal trainer. I am obsessed about 5-year results. So I've really tried my very best at helping my clients maintain their weight loss 5 years after their program.
Right on. Okay. And I'm Jonathan Byron, and I'm going to throw this to Chris while I'm introducing myself. I'm thinking that where you have the names, would it be possible to throw that up in the upper left rather than the lower left?
Next week.
That's a next week thing. I was like, if you could just move that like a Canva template, that would be amazing.
So nice just to drag it anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially with the owl camera.
Maybe we can add that. Anyway,
we'll get there.
I'll third party endorse Chris if you have the need to build cool stuff like this or even smaller things. He does a great job at that. As it's failing to.
Yeah, we're having fun.
We're having fun. As my little tag said when it was up, and it's gone now, but I'm a real estate concierge is how I'm branding myself. There it is. And so basically what I mean by that is I want to sit down with you, get to know your real estate needs, and help you get there. Just like if you were at a hotel and we were just talking about The Office, and there's a great scene in The Office where they go to the concierge, and that's taking it totally the wrong direction. But I want to help you find the resources that you need to do what you want in the real estate world. So would love to connect with you if you're at all curious about real estate. And I'm super excited to have Zane back. Before I jump to Zane and Leonidas to talk about the topic that you guys kind of brainstormed for today, I do want to take a quick minute to thank Precision Driving Academy for hosting us here at the Liberty Lake Portal, and Rob Reuter with Edic Designs for providing lunch and
Dinner.
Dinner, in this case, yes. Chris and I were chuckling. Some people eat lunch late. It's kind of a late lunch for some. This one, for sure. He had spaghetti this morning at 10 a.m. 9 a.m. So, it's youth and next generation. We call it whatever we want. But thank you to Rob. Thank you, Chris, for building the architecture for this. And thank you, everybody that's here, for being here to be a part of this conversation. And excited to see, really, because I know you guys talked about the topic. And prior to that, we were going way down a rabbit trail that was not great for a topic for a conversation like this. So
it would have been a great.
It would have been great. We would have had a great time. Yeah. And your mother would have dismissed herself from the conversation.
That's
quite quickly.
It is very unfortunate that would have happened, but yes. We're talking about mentorship today. I think slightly more specifically how mentorship can go both ways.
Yep.
Yeah. So pass it on to you.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I think it's definitely one of those things right now where there's that need that everybody has, whether you're in that youth and next generation area of your life, or sometimes even as we grow, we need some mentorship, we need some guidance to help us through the fun thing we call life. And so that can be, are we in an area where we're providing that mentorship? Are we in an area where we're receiving it? Or both? Are we receiving that mentorship and then modeling how good mentorship reception is? Because you can have a great mentor and also not take that feedback or what you're trying to be given from that. And I think we could potentially get into an aspect of, hey, what happens if you have a not so great mentor and maybe getting some bad advice? But I think just kind of seeing the needs, and there's lots of organizations that try to fill that need for a lot of people, like the Boys and Girls Club, and even in the business space, right? We have Spokane Spark that provides business mentorship. So there's lots of opportunities and ways we can kind of grab hold of that. Just kind of thoughts on maybe some mentorship that you've received that's been helpful to you, or mentorship you've given.
I have something on the bad mentorship part. I don't think I've ever had a bad mentor, but I have definitely had people that want to be a mentor to me that would not be a good mentor. Like, they would give you bad advice. And I think you have to shape the people that you're, this is very basic. You have to shape the people that you're around to be how you would like to be. I don't know where I was going with that.
I just saw Jonathan peek up a little bit. Who was giving you bad advice?
Just people, man. People suck.
And that's our no.
All right, on to the next topic.
I thought I would jump in and see if I can help Leonidas here, because one of my mentors, and I have many different mentors and for different goals and aspects, but one of my mentors, Brian Kurtz, is a founder of an organization called Titans Accelerators, and it's a direct response marketing mastermind. And one of the things he's written about and he speaks about quite often is that you don't pick mentors. Your mentor picks you. So the purpose of being a mentee is to put yourself in situations where you can be mentored. And when they see that you have, that you are responding, that you're there and you're engaged and connected, then they may feel motivated to say, why don't you check back with me? And that's an invitation to mentorship. I think sometimes, it's a great term, mentorship, and we certainly want, to do that frequently. But I think the challenge is we think it's a fixed thing. All you have to do is give advice and you're a mentor. But valuable mentors are ones that see you for who you are and share things that will help you not just attain what they've done, but go beyond.
Mhm.
Because if all I do is make somebody who's a mirror image of me, that's a poor waste of my effort, because there's generations coming that need better than what I've done. And so that's why I think this idea is you need to put yourself in situations where you can be mentored and let your mentors pick you.
I was going to say, I think that's a great point. A lot of the most important things I've learned in my life has been through mentorship. And sometimes you just have to be open to, it could be from anybody. When I was in construction, I learned how to drive 70,000 pound trucks and huge pieces of equipment from guys that, if you didn't know that that's what they knew, you might not think that they could teach somebody something that impressive. But they taught me it perfectly, in my opinion. So I think it's really important to stay open to anybody being your mentor and not necessarily judging a book by its cover.
I think Rob brought up a really interesting point about the role of a mentor or responsibility of a mentor. That it's not necessarily like to teach someone to do something. That's more of a coach. But Rob said it's to bring out the best in someone, right? To bring them up to higher levels. And I think we see that really well in really kind of the ultimate archetype of mentor, which obviously is Gandalf. Right? Like, and it's one of those things, like you think about this, but as Gandalf's leading the fellowship, and he's not teaching the hobbits how to be a wizard, right? That's not how that goes. Or if you go for a modern version, Dumbledore is not trying to teach Harry how to be a Dumbledore, right? But they're drawing out the best of the person. And to go back to Lord of the Rings, because we'll be nerdy on this. If you watch, like, Gandalf never does something for the Fellowship, right? Like, Gandalf, being a wizard in Middle Earth, he's got powers. He could probably decimate some of those fights real quickly. He does equalize the battlefield when coming against other, like, magical beings like the Balrog or the Witch King. But like at the battle on the fields of Rohan, right? He doesn't go out and ride in and just take out everyone because he's the strongest. He's just there to inspire hope, to elevate everyone around him. If you get real deep in the Tolkien lore, that is like his magical ability. He can stoke the fires within people. But that is the role of a mentor. It's to bring out the best in what someone has. It's not to make the path for them. It's not to do the work for them. It's not to teach them or make a carbon copy out of them. You're just there to support and elevate and encourage and nurture and help them grow on their own path to their own destiny. So we could all be a little more Gandalf. You shall pass.
So every time we start to get into the nuance of this, and just Zane, from when you started, and Rob, everybody's comments, it always brings me to, like, well, what is even the definition of mentor? And I didn't get a chance to send this to Chris, so it's not going to appear on your screen. But a mentor is an experienced, trusted advisor who guides a less experienced person, the mentee, to grow personally or professionally. Rather than doing the work for you, a mentor uses their perspective and hindsight to offer advice, act as a sounding board, and help you make better decisions. I think Google listened to you and generated that as I searched it, because I literally searched after you said that. It was almost like word for word. There's like a little quote, Steve Hicks.
Yeah.
Just elucidated the word definition.
More things should listen to me if we're honest.
I'm always tuning in to make sure I grasp exactly.
We just found out Google is always listening.
Always listening.
Just to grasp the details or whatever came out of Rob's pocket.
Always watching what
That's
counts.
your AI mentor.
That's your AI mentor.
I like what you're saying too. I mean, anytime anybody brings up Gandalf, I mean, I'm listening. So, but before this, we were kind of talking about that as well, as how do we lead and guide while still maintaining that blank slate? Because it's very easy to take, okay, it might start off as a mentorship, but then, your own personality might start overpowering and take over. Maybe it moves into a coaching role when it's not meant to be, or maybe you're just, okay, no, I see your potential, I see what you can do, and this is what you should do, instead of allowing the person to figure it out and to find out what they want.
Well, I think the answer, because it sounded like you posed the question, like how do you keep from controlling it or whatever, changing the relationship. And I think the intention of knowing that I'm here for what's best for them, not I'm here for what's best for me. And that sometimes gets a little bit more muddied when we get into like the teaching and the coaching roles, because there is some aspects of like, if I can get my student or my client or whatever to do this way, and there's a little bit of more benefit to me. A mentor is just there like, hey, I have this suggestion, or I have this perspective, or possibly you want to look into this. But there's really, it's just like what's the best for the mentee. Once, like, it's almost like you're not involved at all. You're just almost a conduit.
Yeah, and also paired with that, I think being what we were talking about earlier was being open and curious, and then also asking them questions like, how do you feel about that information, or what are your thoughts on whatever it might be, and as the mentor, really listening, because it can be very easy to be just like, here's my advice, like what we were talking about, just here it is, and not being open and curious back. And this happens even as parents, raising kids. I mean, John and I are totally different parents than we were even just a few years ago, being more open to the pushback, which is really difficult to a point, right, Leonidas? But, being willing to have our minds change too, as parents or mentors. Even as a coach, me talking to clients and just me being like, oh, that's a very interesting thing. I didn't think about it that way. But yeah, that's all I have for that.
Which, if there's any youth watching right now, there's a very thin line between disrespectfulness and what she was just talking about. And
Yes.
I use that line like a jump rope.
Yeah, there is a fine line.
Well, speaking of viewers, we have a comment from a viewer.
Excellent.
Oh, nice.
Dave Ribble.
Hey, Dave Ribble.
His take on a mentor is to facilitate their growth and understanding.
Ooh, so good, Dave.
There you go.
Say that again. Facilitate their growth.
Facilitate their growth and understanding. And he also said that we look great.
We do look. The camera is working well.
Yeah, I think the lighting in the room helps.
Well, we are. I mean, we would look better if Dave was with us. That's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And gay.
Yes.
That would be.
Fantastic.
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we miss you. And yeah, the question, an interesting question that's formulating in my mind around this. And Stephen, you were kind of like the one that put me on this rail, but it's been.
Gandalf put you on the road.
There you go. Yeah. And just
etched on your door.
I'm done. So there's sort of what you're describing, this idea of almost like a sterile mentorship, where, and this is something I've struggled with, with Leonidas, like all of my character defects and flaws, all of these things that I don't want to pass on to him. And then also a lot of that, like, well, this is how I do it, but I want him to like invent. So like if you put on one side of the tension, I use that word sterile. Like I want to mentor him without infecting or what's that? Contaminating that pure vessel, if you will. On the other side, and I think we are more familiar with mentors that are this way, it's like they have a big personality. They have this big, like, this is the right way, this is the way, walk ye in it kind of thing. And somewhere, like, I think if we become too sterile, and Leonidas and I are watching a show that I won't name on air, but many of you will figure it out, where their goal is absolute purity in the product that they're creating. And if my goal,
Immediately.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
sure,
Yes.
sure, yes, Chris, thank
Yeah.
you. And so that was the picture that I got when I'm thinking of that. But like, if nothing of me, none of my contaminants, if you will, pass on to him, that may produce a very pure outcome. But what imprint did I leave on that person that I'm mentoring, and how much of me are they receiving in that relationship? And it seems like there's a tension there. Like we could go too far in either direction, where if I just create a copy paste print of myself, that's not ideal, because I just replicated myself. It's not anything new. But if I go too much to I just want him to become his own person with no outside influence, then like there's no.
But I think I hear your tension in there. Is you want to leave a legacy. You want to be, recognizing that you had an impact. I don't know that I subscribe to the idea that those two outcomes are just are separate. And I actually was listening earlier today to another one of my newer mentors, Michael Burnoff, and he spends a lot of time talking about influence and impact. And one of the lessons he was teaching again today, and I was going, yeah, I've heard him talk about this before, and I really do believe it. And that is, it says that not sterilization, but adulteration of you being too much. What he talks about, for instance, and it's so common, we have it built in. Somebody comes up to us, a child, somebody, and they're excited, they accomplished something, and they come up to tell you about it. They're so excited, and what's the first thing you typically hear somebody say? That's so cool. I'm proud of you. Well, you just put yourself into their accomplishment. They accomplished it. And yet you're saying, I am proud. And what Michael says, what we should be doing at that moment is building them up. Saying, wow, that's challenging. Or whatever demonstrates that they really accomplished something. And then we say, you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah,
they're looking for that acknowledgement, but we're making them the center.
I've definitely heard and seen and read a lot of content around that idea of, and it's one of those things that to speak to this tension, it's like, and I've actually told Leonidas, and to a lesser extent his younger siblings, like, I'm going to mess you up. It's just a question of in what way. and so like really, like there is no perfect path, and I think as parents we've all.
Even on that show, like in the quest for like the perfect pure product, I think Walter only gets to like 96, maybe 96%.
Hold on, we haven't watched the whole thing yet. We're on like episode 5 now.
You haven't met Gail.
Also, you're getting dangerously close to revealing to everybody which show we're talking about.
I think it's already.
You said the word purity, and it was like, oh.
Oh, good times. There's a growing field, I would say, of observations around like specifically that, like, oh, great job, you're good at that. Like when we say you're good at that or you're naturally smart, like all these things, it tends to build in us this like confidence in our natural ability versus our ability to struggle through challenges and overcome something. So, hey, great job. You really worked hard to accomplish that, those kind of things. So I love that. Zane, it looked like you were about to.
Yeah, no, I was kind of coming back to the purity talk. And you're talking about, I don't want to contaminate, right? And even in saying that, like, I don't want to pass this on, but that's all perception based. So I feel like this trait of mine is something that's not desirable. I don't want to pass it on to you. But that's just your opinion of it. So you are going to inherently pass on the things that are just second nature that you feel like are good, and they may or may not be.
Wow.
So it's our perspective on, hey, what do I like about myself? Which then kind of brings it back to, what do we think about ourselves?
Wow.
Okay.
And then another thought with that, and something I've always tried to remember, but inevitably always forget, is where is our focus? So if we're, whether that's helping ourselves, if we're the mentee or if we're a mentor, what am I focusing on? Because we can say, I don't want to be a bad dad. But if you're focused on, I don't want to be a bad dad, you're focusing on all the bad things instead of, here's the things I want to do in my business or as a father or whatever it is that you're dealing with or going through. So you have to focus on, and for a mentor, that's switching that to the other person. What do they want to be, and how can I help focus them on that? Because if I focus them on, well, don't do this, this will lead you in the wrong path, then their brain's going right to that.
Yeah, on that, I know from both you guys, mom and dad, for people watching, you guys have parented differently than your parents have for reasons that, like, you didn't appreciate what they did. Do you think that they knew that you weren't appreciating that?
No.
So it's kind of inevitable, to Zane's point. Like, it's just, you don't know.
It's
what
kind of
you
like
don't know.
Thanos. That's a Marvel point.
It is inevitable.
Points.
Are we allowed to say Marvel, or is that strike that from the record?
You can delete that.
However, I will say.
I say that's a point for DC in the edited version.
I will say my parents did the best that they could with what they had. And they parented different than their parents. Absolutely. And my parents have definitely talked about that. And then we are doing the best that we can with what we have. And our mindset has changed on a lot of different things on how we were parented. And yes, you're probably going to need therapy later on in life, but it's just, we're going to mess up. We've already messed up many, many, many times. And our mindset has changed drastically over the last couple of years, for sure.
Well, and that brings up, like, I'll have you go next. So the phrase that I think most everybody will have already heard is hard times create soft men.
Backwards.
Hard times create hard men create soft times create soft men, and it keeps cycling, and it can be, the language can be used slightly differently, but basically good, comfortable times with plenty of resources create a sort of lazy, comfortable, relaxed mindset, creates people that aren't pushing hard for things. And so you can apply this to many different, like, if you have parents that are very strict and orderly and everything needs to be in its place, and you come out of that and discover, wow, that's not how everybody operates, and I can actually kind of relax a little bit, then we're going to parent with, like, wow, we don't need our kids to feel what we felt when we were going through that. And they, depending on, there's a lot of generational levels to this, you could go 5 generations of softening, and then something happens because you're so soft that you're not prepared for the wolves that come into that environment. It's like, wow, we were so underprepared for this. I'm going to make sure that my kids don't have this issue that I encountered of being too soft to defend myself against the wolves. And I'm putting illustrations together all over the map. But that idea goes back full circle to what Zane, what you were saying, is like, my perception of the thing that I'm doing is, I'm like, oh man, I don't like this about me, so I'm not going to instill that into my kids. But that might be the very thing that they end up being like, I really wish you would have passed that on to me. And to that sort of infrastructure, when you were talking, I think that there's a feedback loop that we try to create where we do allow you to push back. And we say, okay, hold on a second, I don't like that you're pushing back because I am right. And how could you possibly know better than me and all of the things? But to allow that, like, okay, hold on a second, I'm going to pause for a minute and say, wait a second, does he have something here that is worth me considering? Because that's where you start to find those blind spots of like, oh, yeah, there is absolutely no reason for me to say no to that other than that in my subconscious psyche somewhere. And we talked about this last week with Cherie, where like, I just haven't done the work yet and I have a scarcity mindset or I have this. And you're like, well, why don't we do this? Challenging it, allowing me to process it and think it through. And then, nope, in fact, today we had one that I was like, nope, I have considered what you counter proposed and I have shot it down. You wanted to open a window. The air quality outside being terrible.
That's not the whole story.
Steve Hicks, go.
I think that is what you're touching on is something that, you know, has made a difference, because we are so open that we do expose our changing selves more in this society than in the past. I think, you know, even within my family now, we can look at the larger generational shifts, and we can talk about latchkey children, you know, and that's a big theme right now. Gen Xers are saying, hey, we were, you know, we were at home by ourselves, you know, doing everything, and we learned how to make it all work. And you know, the millennials, well, you know, they were, you know, given everything and so on. But there is still within individual families. So in my family, we have this dynamic where my grandfather, you know, was a late child for my great grandfather, and literally grew up hating his father because his father had no attention, no interest, you know, and literally the stories are that, you know, he would take them up to Priest Lake, dump them on the island at the beginning of summer, and would motor back to town, and he would be gone all summer. And it was mom and the kids on an island in the middle of Priest Lake. And then, you know, he would come out every other weekend and, you know, and things like that. So my grandfather resented his father and then got, you know, grew or went to the war, you know, wild childhood that couldn't go and fight. So he ended up, but, you know, he had a very rough time of it, and that carried into my parents' generation. My father and uncle did not like their father, but by the time my generation came along, my grandfather had mellowed to a point of, you know, my grandfather was the comedian, and he was just, you know, thoughtful and you know, and took care of things and all that. So we grew up around this, and you know, now we're looking back at this going, you know, that seesaw back and forth every generation. But back then you didn't talk about it. You just lived it. And then you made your own judgment. I think whether you want to draw a line, hard line, and say, this is the law, we're not going to do that or not, it's, are you talking about it, you know, and saying, you will have that, you know, choice. My mother, single mother, raised us not to mold my sister and I in her views of truth and belief and things like that. She saw us as being gifts, and she was the caretaker to help us become who we were going to become. So we knew what she believed and what she expected of us and all of that. But we were also given a lot of freedom to develop the way we were going to develop. And she took solace in that we might not make the decisions she would have us make, but when we had a tough thing to deal with, we would end up sitting on the end of her bed going, what do you think?
And that's definitely something we love and want to cultivate is our kids coming to us with that. Did you forget what you had, or
No, I have it. It's
Still
just a complete tangent or a complete side quest. But since this is the Friday we tend to talk about like the youth and the next generation, and today's topic is mentorship, and we have a youth in the room, I just want to throw a hardball at Leonidas and preface this with there's no right answer. Your parents aren't in the room right now.
Whoa, okay.
I'm just curious, given like you're of a different generation, right? So there's different priorities, and you're at a different stage of life, and priorities change as you go through different stages as well. I'm curious if there's any area in your life, whether it's general or very specific, that you would see value in having a mentor right now.
I mean, I have two that I've had my whole life. And I think that in general, as a kid, like just having a mentor or two, which should be your parents, ideally, to kind of guide you in life itself, like as a very general topic. Like, I think you're asking more specifically.
It could be general, right? Like there's some mentors that are like sometimes like a grandfather role. And be like, man, my grandfather just taught me how to be a good person. Or it could be specific. It could be like Chris was talking about, man, there were some guys on the workforce that really taught me how to drive those big trucks really, really well, right? It could be specific. I know you're starting the PC build stuff. It could be general. I don't know if it's important to your generation to like have a sense of like, this is how you be a man, or like, I don't know. Just if there's any areas at your age and your stage that you're like, man, I just wish I had a little bit more guidance on this area.
There'd probably be negotiation. I really like negotiating.
Well, and I think that there's a two-part to that question. One part is, do you personally feel like you need a mentor? And you have regularly been asking at the beginning of the hour for people that know about computers to pour into you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen you solicit that and accept that, and also filter that from people that want to offer you advice. The more general question, and I think this might be more what you're asking, is your peer group, the people that you're seeing, like even you're in driving school right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do the other students, do they seem like they are seeking out mentorship? Does it seem like your generation sees value in that, or is there some sort of a sense of autonomy? I'm going to be a self-made person, and I don't want input from other people.
I think in general, from what I've gathered from most people that I personally hang out with, is that they think that most of the content that we're learning, like from teachers, like driving school, not to dog on the driving school or anything, but like it all seems very like basic to us. Like we've already learned it, and we want to, like, it's not that we don't want to learn anything. It's that all of the stuff that's getting poured into us is too basic, or something along the lines of that. And we would like more in depth, like not to be treated like children. Like, sure, in elementary school, it's good to learn the elementary school things, but like, especially with the internet nowadays, you can learn anything super quickly. But having that in-person experience, like in high school, you can kind of pick your own stuff. In college, you can really pick your own things that you're learning. I think in high school, we should be able to pick like we're in college, hypothetically, because then we would be able to kind of like still get basic stuff learned and everything, but like be able to pick your own like niche that you really want to learn about, and that in-person like connecting with people is super important to learn specific things. Like learning a language is much easier when you're speaking with a native speaker or something like that. Don't know if that answers your question entirely, but hope that helps.
Can I speak to that for just a minute? So what I have found with Leonidas and Eleazar, our middle one, our middle child, is that when they hit 5th grade, both of them were bored in school. And it was bored because they didn't feel challenged enough in school, and then also bored of their peers not wanting to rise to a certain level. And that's one of the reasons why Leonidas homeschools, is because he was just like the teachers that massively challenged him, he excelled, and the teachers that didn't, he didn't do as well. We'll just put it that way. And even with homeschooling, what he does online school, the teachers that are more challenging, he does very well, and the teachers that are not, he doesn't.
Let's say I put the same amount of effort into their class as they put into me.
Yes, and I think that goes really well with kind of what you're saying. Like, you want that challenge, the information, the like, give me more. And those that are not doing that in your life, you're like, next. And even with friendships, like those that are like, let's learn about something, you're more engaged with those friendships, and those that are not as engaging, you're just kind of like, meh, I don't know why I'm here in this friendship. And that's what I'm seeing more of. And I think, I don't think that applies to everyone your age, but that's definitely what I'm seeing.
That's why I specified the people that I hang out with.
Right.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
It reminded me when you talk about things being too basic. So I signed up for it in college because I got to pick my courses.
Oh, that
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, okay. Good to know. I'll get there.
I signed up for an Excel course. I'm like, all right, college level Excel course. I'm going to learn some really cool stuff. And eventually I did. But I get the textbook and I open it up and the first page is turn on your computer.
Oh.
And I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
But when we're in that mentor-mentee relationship, it kind of reminded me of, okay, I can either, all right, I'm the mentor, here's what you need to learn, or I can start and ask you the questions. What do you know? What do you feel like you need help with? And also as a mentee, realizing that what I think I might need help with may not be what I actually need help with. And so even though something might be too basic, could be understanding the basics a little bit better. And so not being afraid of the basics, because going through that class, I still ended up learning a lot. The instructor passed over the turn on your computer part because we're all online courses. So asking the questions and then also being open to maybe a review of the basics. And do I fully understand that? Yeah, I get the turn on your car, but do you understand what turning the key on the car actually does?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the points that's come up that I just want to circle back to the role of a mentor is we keep coming up to the word challenge, right? Mm-hmm. A good mentor challenges the mentee in a couple different ways, right? You challenge them on a philosophical sense, so you don't let them just have a straight path to like they already know the answers. You make them pause and sit with the question and sit with the ideas and kind of challenge that idea over. But then also to take it to the next level, to challenge them on another level of intensity, not just the basic teachings, not just the basic ideas, but make it a little bit more advanced, make it a little bit more nuanced, make it a little bit more accelerated. But yeah, I think that came out really well, and I think that's a point worth mentioning. Is like Jonathan was saying about the soft times make soft people. a mentor's role is also to challenge a person because, those hard challenges make for hardy people.
I think it is important too to recognize that sometimes what seems like easy and it's like why I already know this is sometimes a little bit of a mentee's mistake. They think they're further advanced, and the story I tell on myself is that I always was excelled in school, up through high school. Fifth, sixth grade, I was being a banker for my classroom, and my teacher saw what I was doing, because we got these bucks and things, and I was getting everybody to let me deposit them, and I would give them interest. And he says, "Well, how are you doing this?" And I gave him my spiel, what I understood. And he says, "Okay, well that's fine." It says, "But here's the deal." It says, "I want you to keep accurate records. I want you to turn in, actual paperwork to show what you're paying in interest and things." And then he says, "And then here's my deal with you. For everything you turn in, I will give you twice what you paid out in interest." And so it became that mentorship of saying, don't just do something. I got into seventh grade. I went through the seventh grade math book, in first quarter, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, something like that. My teacher had, what is he going to give me for the rest of the year? So he got me going in algebra, which was 2 years down the road. But here's the challenge. I was always advanced until I got into high school. And in high school, because I was so far advanced, they skipped me through some material. I didn't have to take trigonometry because I had all the credits I needed. I tested out for college and I got into advanced. I got into honors program, which put me in advanced classes. So I went right from high school algebra 2 into calculus. Completely out of my league.
I had the same experience. Like I was testing well and throughout, and then because of the test scores, they let me skip Calc 1 and go into Calc 2, and I had no idea what the hell was going on in Calc 2, and I just got nothing. There is.
That's how I ended my math major. I was a math major for 1 quarter, and at the end of and I still know the test or the assignment question that I just said, I'm done. If the guy's speeding, he's going to get a ticket. If he's not speeding, I don't care. But the thing was, is I was listening to a lot of my mentors, but sometimes you have to respect that if they want you to do something, it's because they're teaching you something. Miyagi, I always think of, wax on, wax off. Why am I doing wax on, wax off? Because you're learning to defend yourself without thinking. And that's what we have to always remember is sometimes the easy stuff isn't what they're trying to teach you. It's the physical memory they want you to have so that you can go beyond what, when it's your turn, when it's your time, you will just do this out of mental experience rather than, what do I do? So.
That gets into, and ever since, Rob, you, in the very beginning, you very well pushed back on something I had said with the quote from your mentor that said that the mentee doesn't choose the mentor, like that. I've been, ever since then, I've been like, man, I don't like that. Like, not I dislike it. I think it's an interesting concept and I like exploring new concepts, but I don't know if I agree with it, I think is what I was trying to like push through. And I feel like I've gotten some clarity on it. enough at least to make a little bit of a transition here that we can kind of all look at. And that is that there's different styles or forms that mentorship takes. And Mr. Miyagi is a great example of, like, we all love Mr. Miyagi because he was quirky. He took a very unique approach. And at the end of the day, this approach that nobody understood. Of course, now we all do. So, like, watching it, introducing it to the next generation, we're like, you just wait, it's going to be so good. And the next generation is so savvy that they're like, he's teaching him by making him do this. But that's like, that is an example of a almost professorly, somebody that sits down and says, I want to teach this, and I'm going to customize my approach, and I'm going to make this in a way that he doesn't see it coming. Of course, it's made for TV, made for movie also, so there's a little bit of a script flair to it. And then there's sort of like the more, almost to your point, Stephen, earlier, teacher coach, where it's like really very rudimentary. Like, here's the, again, professorally, here's the syllabus. We're going to start with turn on your computer, and we're going to progressively go through it. And I will adapt it per each individual student, mentee to some extent. And then I think the majority, maybe perhaps, of mentorship falls into this huge other area of caught, not taught. And everybody in this room is a mentor to me to an extent where.
As I should be.
Yeah. I knew there was going to be one person that was going to take credit for that. And I like to think that I'm a mentor to everybody else in this room to the extent that you'll allow the things that I've picked up. And that's one of the reasons we do this, is that it creates a roundtable, a mentorship circle of wisdom where we are, to jump into another sci-fi category, Star Wars, the Council of the Jedi, or the Jedi Order or whatever, like there is like wisdom in sharing and pushing back and all of that stuff. And the caught not taught part of it for me, and this is very current on my mind because Leonidas is driving now. And so he's the one with the steering wheel in his hand, and I'm sitting next to him. And there's a lot of things that he does that I'm like, oh, he picked that up because he's always, when I'm driving, like that's just how I do it. It is not what I'm trying to teach him. It's the things that he's caught over the years. And I'm like, okay.
Full stops and stop signs, guys.
For instance,
you don't roll
for
through
instance,
them. Apparently you don't roll through them. This was something that I was unaware of.
How's the floorboard on the passenger side train?
It's getting more wear than it's ever had before, that's for sure.
Not at stop signs, though. He hits the accelerator while I'm coming to a full stop. It's
I'm like,
weird.
what are you doing? Why are you stopping? Go.
You were talking, I just interrupted.
Well, I think I
Caught, not taught.
Caught, not taught.
One other thought to go with that, I think there's kind of that tendency, and the focus we've had a little bit is sometimes you do have the people that try to mentor when they shouldn't, or who feel like they're mentors when they're not. But the flip side of that is kind of like we talk about usually at the end of Friday conversations. Hey, if you've been quiet. So if you are a quiet one and you feel like, oh, I'm not a mentor, you could be. And you probably have lots of value to add to somebody. And I think holding that tension between does the mentor find the mentee or the mentee find the mentor, it is a little bit of both. And since this is Third Friday Nerd Hour, it's like the wand choosing the wizard, right? You gotta try them all out, see what fits. Or even if we're going into Star Wars, when they find their kyber crystal for their lightsaber, they've got to go on a quest and they find each other. So whatever the weapon of your choice is, you just got to work towards being available to each other.
And I think that's the important point about the statement that the mentor chooses the mentee. Because everyone who attracts a following, attracts an audience, does not have time to mentor everyone who wants that experience. And in some cases, they just literally have to say no, because Otherwise, they don't get to live their own life. They don't get to grow themselves. And so it's always an aspect of, you may be a follower, you may be a believer, but you're not going to have that direct experience with them unless they see something in you that they want to reach out and say, and this is what Brian is talking about. He says, he knew a lot of great people in direct response marketing. He worked with big names. But when they took the time to say, Brian, let me show you what I'm doing, is when they reached out and said, I will share my knowledge with you. And that's almost a sacred moment, because now somebody is saying, I see greatness in you, and I am willing to invest in that. And so I see it more as, I need to keep curious, I need to keep studying, I need to keep working on myself, so that at that right moment, somebody will reach out to me and say, hey, I think you have something I would love to see you develop. Let me share some of my wisdom with you.
I think to take that a slightly different angle, to kind of go to add a little bit to the caught not taught, is we talk a lot about and we think a lot about the active mentorship, but there is also a passive mentorship, right? There's where you can be mentored by someone without their participation in it. Very easy to think like authors. Like I've never known Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor's passed. I'm never gonna have a chance to meet Bob Proctor. I would still consider Bob Proctor to be a mentor of mine. And there's some historical figures. There's some other great business leaders and stuff, like Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia. I love the way that he operates business. I'd want to study more of his history, more of his biography, more of his methodologies, and essentially through that study have him passively mentor me through his examples. But that is an option too, right? Like, I do think most of the time in an active mentorship relationship, the mentor kind of makes that choice of like, there's something about this individual that I just want to be a part of, and I want to support, and I want to elevate and lift up. But there's also the passive mentorship where the mentee is like, man, that person's example means so much to me that I'm going to emulate it. Even if they roll through stop signs, I'm going to emulate that. So there's that aspect too. I think we don't have much time. We didn't have much time, but I did want to throw that in. There is also the passive mentorships, and that's great because the confusion of mentorship versus coaching sometimes gets cost prohibitive. The active mentorship, you have a time and a resource limitation. The passive mentorship, you just need to find the right inspiration and really study and watch and emulate that example, and that's limitless. Teddy Roosevelt already lived and passed. He doesn't have to do anything more, but his example, like, a million people could follow it, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people continue to get inspiration from the man in the arena speech. I don't know if many people are, emulating his Rough Rider days, but it's out there. You could, if you wanted to.
Well, and that's the exact reason that I kind of gave you that head nod, because you and I share a mentor in that vernacular, Brian Buffini. And as Rob was talking, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, not all mentorship has to be there's a word that I still can't quite get to, but the holy grail of like, the lady of the pond shimmering clad in, talk about nerd hour. There is that, and it's interesting because as you're talking about that, I'm like, I don't know that I'm seeking that out in this season of my life as much as I have in other seasons. And that's a whole other thing that we could get into. I think this is a good aspect of Third Fridays that we can maintain as one of our go-to topics. But to Stephen's point, we are very much out of time. And it's so odd. Just now, as you were talking, I was like, wow, it's like 7 o'clock. Like we normally do this at lunchtime. So I'm like, oh yeah, we could go like, oh, it's like, okay, it's almost bedtime
Yeah.
for some people.
I was gonna say, you stayed up till like 3 a.m.
Shush.
last night.
Not that late.
It's pretty close.
He caused the smoky smell that woke us up.
And also a mentee can kind of stalk you and know exactly what your sleep schedule is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some of that, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know any of that mentee shit.
All right. Well, thank you to Precision Driving Academy for hosting us here at our location. Rob Reuter, IDIC Designs, thank you for hosting lunch. Chris, thank you for building out this platform that worked phenomenally well this afternoon. And I think we have some tweaks for next week that'll make it even better. But if you're following along online, we do encourage you to come join us in person. Next week, we will be at Dryfly for our intentionality with Debbie Ramirez. Melissa's looking at me like I'm wrong, but I'm fairly confident that that is where we're at next week. Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry. Never mind. I was thinking of 5th Friday. I thought we were at the 4th.
Oh yes, which we do have a 5th Friday coming up. So for those of you that look at this little next week Dryfly at 12 p.m. But just to start putting the word out, 5th Friday we don't meet at Dryfly at any of the locations. There is no meeting, so don't. I mean, you can go to the website and it'll show you that there's no meeting. So
You could go to any of the locations and hang out.
yeah, which apologies to at least one person that showed up today at somewhere at noon.
Oh.
That may have even been the business furniture.
So where can they find?
Yes, thank you, Melissa. FridayConversations.live is your source. If you're watching this, I guess you don't need that on the reader board because you're there already.
You're watching the YouTube though.
Yeah, there you go. FridayConversations.live. That is the source of truth most of the time. We try to keep it as updated as possible. And thank you, everybody in the room. Appreciate all of your insights. This was a great conversation. And for Zane's sake, we will do the magical clacker. See y'all next week.